like to welcome everybody to the Wednesday, January 9th Public Works meeting. Roll call, please.
Alderman Lockmiller.
Here.
Alderman Dimmitt.
Here.
Alderman Leahy.
Here.
And Alderman Weggie.
Here. All right, we'll move on down to approval. Any changes to the agenda? Any problem approving by acclamation?
No.
None. It's approved as it stands. We have no announcements, appointments, or proclamations. We'll move on down to item number 4 is citizens' comment. Anybody from the audience wish to have any comment for the committee? Nobody beelining for the podium? All right, well, you'll have to come to the podium so that we can hear you. But I'll be willing to, while we're discussing it, allow you to come up at that time. Okay. Any reports from chair or committee members? I have nothing. Anybody?
I have, and it's not a report as much as it is maybe a question or a concern for Bola and Dan, and that is kind of a follow-up on the, just by way of background, there is a house at Sonora and McKnight, and I've told Bola and Dan about this, and they've been great at getting some information back to me, but there is a hole that is adjacent to the sidewalk. I received a call from a homeowner who was walking to Tilly's to walk through the lights the early part of December. As they were walking back, there aren't any really good street lights at that part of McKnight, and as you may know, there's no grass between the sidewalk and McKnight. When they came along this sidewalk, the sidewalk floods routinely because it's in a depressed portion, and in order to get around the water, they were faced with the choice of walking in McKnight or walking in the homeowner's yard. They chose the yard because it was dark. They didn't see that there was a hole. They stepped in the yard. He fell. Thankfully, there doesn't appear to be any serious injuries, but it raises a real concern as to what my concern about any type of liability on the part of the city, that I don't think it's in the right of way. I don't know if it's in our right of way, but what is causing that hole? And is that the problem? Is that what's causing the problem with the sidewalk? The sidewalk is dropping down and it's allowing the collection of water, but to the extent we have a sidewalk that is accumulating water, and we know about that, and we have pedestrians walking on that sidewalk, do we have a responsibility to fix that sidewalk so they're not faced with that choice of going into busy McKnight or into a homeowner's property that has a hole? And so I don't know. Again, Dan and Bola did a great job. I got to them, I asked them, and they got back to me immediately on that, and they did a lot of work, some investigation. But I just wanted to bring this to the committee's attention and see if that is something, I don't know what we can do, if anything, if we can, the person I was talking to, the resident said maybe you could put a fence. If the homeowner is not willing to make a change, could we put a fence along the sidewalk so people aren't going into the yard? A cone, anything to warn the folks that there's this dangerous condition. So that was my concern.
Well, we could put it on. I wouldn't have any problem putting it on the agenda for next. Want to investigate it further and just get some information on it.
Chairman, we addressed this issue 3 and 4 years ago. The current city code makes the sidewalks the responsibility of the homeowners to maintain and work through. We tried changing the code to make it our responsibility. We agreed at that time we replace the sidewalks when they're damaged by the tree roots or by deterioration because somebody rolled over it and tore it down at that point. But other than that, I agree with you. It's not a good situation, but at present, code says it's the homeowner's responsibility. So if we know that it is being undermined, by rights, the city is supposed to send written notice to the homeowner advising them of the problem so that they turn around and have a chance to address it.
So I agree with what Alderman Dimmitt has said, that if we believe or have cause to believe that that the sidewalk has been compromised, regardless of who is at play here, we should put a fence and a cone there to alert everybody. So I don't know if we've done that already, but we've talked about this in the past. We should be doing that. So we will do that first thing tomorrow morning. I also would like to, I wasn't able to attend staff meeting today, but to talk a little bit more with the city attorney to see what other options we have to remediate this problem. Oftentimes, homeowners do not have the ability, $3,000, $4,000, whatever the cost is, to fix it. So right now, I know that we can't go on a private property, but at least we should talk about it a little bit more to see what else we can do.
Want to have a report back to committee or to you?
Yeah, I mean, I don't care to be that
I'll
formal.
send it as we have it, but then we can put it on the agenda as well.
Great, so I can tell the folks
Yeah.
that the city will put up a
Yes.
cone and a fence.
We'll do both.
Try and keep people off the grass.
Yes, we'll do
Great.
both. Dan, so we'll put a fence and cone and all of that there tomorrow morning.
Great, thank you.
Bill, did you?
Yeah, sure. I've been meaning to talk to the alderman about this. Since Brentwood Service Weekend is going to happen May 2nd through the 4th, these are the exact projects we want to know about. Because this is the place where the city is kind of held back, but we aren't held back to serve during that weekend. This kind of project, we're looking for contractors and local people that are going to donate their goods and services, and we're going to serve that from the 2nd through the 4th to be able to help problems like this. Well, we can approach the homeowner and say, hey, what if Brentwood Service Weekend, that's one of our projects, and we'll fix that project for you. We'll take the cost on, we'll take the contractors, we'll take the people that we already have that are willing to donate, and we'll handle that for you.
That would be marvelous.
So we just met last night. We're on work to do that. So I just want to let you guys know, please tell me those projects because we're looking for them. We're struggling a little bit with the homeowners that are having, they have overgrowth and they have things like that. We have to go in and convince them that we're going to be safe and we're going to take care of that. But I think this is a perfect place where a homeowner like this would agree to say, what do you mean, no cost to me? That's right. We just want to serve you. And this is where the churches and the community can come together and we can help solve a problem that you guys are kind of tied on. So we'd love to do that. So please alert me to any of those projects. I'll give you guys Bola has my email. Yeah, and then we'll make sure, because we need to know those projects right now. One of our problems last night is that we don't know those projects. That project I can say, okay, this is gonna cost me $3,000 or $4,000, and I have some grant money that I need to budget and say, here's how much it's gonna cost us. So we'd love to know those things, so, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, Pastor Will. Yep, Pastor Will's on the Brentwood Century Foundation. He's kind of doing the outreach to the community as part of the celebration. Okay, no other reports from committee members. We'll move on to city administrator report. Anything, Bola?
Okay.
Okay. All right, any of the department heads have any report? Seeing none, we have no consent agenda. We'll move on to old business, and Eric, I think this is you, the Mount Calvary Community Park Partnership update.
Yes, so as you know, back in, I think it was around September, I brought the opportunity of a community park partnership with Mount Calvary Lutheran Church to the Public Works Committee. At that time, I was asked to go back and discuss the partnership with, specifically with the church again, and more importantly with the Brentwood High School, the school district, sorry. Blanked there for a second. We were able to meet with the church and the school district, and the school district did confirm that obviously they've had a long-standing agreement with the church to use that land specifically for football. It is a partnership they've cherished and one that they continue to see utilizing. They said the only way they'd stop using that field is if they basically eliminated one of the schools, the elementary schools, and turned that into field space. And they said that they don't think that's really a viable option at this time. He did say that they'd be willing to enter into partnership and have a three-person, three-organization partnership. They'd be willing to contribute and really get into that conversation at that time, because I wanted to bring it back here and make sure that we're willing to move forward. But that, we flat out said we're speaking about financially, and Dr. Lane understood that. At that point, he said he wanted to go back and talk to his athletic director and talk about what he wanted. And they said that they'd like at least a 60-yard field in that space. So that's what they would be hoping for as part of their partnership. And then from there, the rest would be used as kind of open park space, as we talked about during the presentation. As we talked about, as I came back last time, we gave a couple options. And again, those were very conceptual by nature, and I gave those costs. But we really wouldn't be able to determine exact costs until we got a true design, especially knowing some things. Even since then, the church has someone, and help me out, Pastor Hankey, she's with the Department of Conservation. Yeah. Renee works with the Department of Conservation. She's very interested in having a very naturalistic park, which is something that I was very interested in. It would be something that would be very unique and different than what's over at Tillis Park is too. So it'd be something that wouldn't just be a cookie cutter of what would be over at Tillis Park or what we'd have somewhere else. So it'd be a different, unique sort of destination as well. So that would be something that would be a little bit different. So all that being said, we'd have to kind of look at those to be able to determine a final cost. And as I said during conversations with everyone, we made it kind of known that we would be needed to look at this through grant funding. So that's kind of where we left it. We did ask Pastor Hankey to come here today to talk a little bit more about it if you wanted to hear from him as well. But that's where we're at right now, and wanted to see if you guys had further questions.
Great questions for Eric. Yeah, go ahead.
So do you need anything from the committee at this point?
I think where we left it last time was that we wanted to make sure that the school district was on board, and then really what I need is direction of, are we okay to move forward? Where that means is, are we okay with design? Are we okay with then, my thought process is we need design, and then we need probably...
We really can't do design because we don't have money for it in the budget. So I think what we're asking for is just continuation of the discussion with the school district and the city.
Well, I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, but in your memos, you're looking at somewhere between 900,000 to potentially 2.3. If we're pushing to do what we want to do at Manchester, and the reports that we received on Manchester is the cost of maintaining acreage after we turn the land in so that we do the flood, you're not going to have excess funds. And I'm not opposed to working with the neighborhood, but to work down this avenue with the idea of grant money, yes, but you're going to have $2 million or $1.5 million every year to be able to make something like this work. I just don't see it happening.
I don't know that that's completely accurate.
Well, I'm using the report. Unfortunately,
Every
Shelley,
year.
it locked me out.
Do you want to address?
Yeah,
the
I mean,
cost?
if you look at our basic cost analysis and performance measures, it's about, right now, we're averaging about $13,000 per acre of park to maintain. We're looking at a little bit under 2.5 acres of green space there, I believe, Pastor Hankey. So per year, if you're taking just that, it'd be about $26,000 a year to maintain once construction is finalized.
So where do you get let's just work from simple numbers, $1.5 million. Can we get a grant to that much that would be able to make it possible?
There is opportunity out there. Not just for municipalities, but other nonprofits and agencies and school districts and the church, obviously. There are lots of grants that I've been aware of that we can't apply for because we're a municipality. So that would be our primary focus to get this built. that would be what we would target. Not that we would want to compete for grants that we would
Exactly.
need for
That's
the
what
city.
I'm looking at.
That would not be the situation at all. So if we continue discussion and then we come back and say, I don't know what the dollar is, correct me, $1 for dollar amount for the land agreement.
And that's something we haven't discussed with the church. You know, the lease agreements I've seen have
Lease
been,
agreement.
the other ones I've seen has been $1, but again, that has not been discussed with the church. So that discussion would have to be had. You know, when you talk about partnerships, with, you know, other organizations, especially with, for green space, there are grants out there, and that would be my job to find those. And that's what when I met with the church, I said, look, you know, the city's in a position right now where we have to grant fund a lot of this, and most of it. And so where I say most of it is that there's most likely going to be times where you have to get matching funds. Now, my hope is that a lot of the matching funds would be coming from the school district portion of the dollars. But, you know, we will have to find, it might be some dollar amount that the city would have to put in there. I don't know at that point until I go out and find those grants, and I haven't put too much time into it until I get the approval to move forward. Again, to me, it's the opportunity of moving forward, especially in our centennial, to say we're partnering with the church to give Ward 1 a ward that does not have a whole lot of green space. Additional green space is a chance that I think is worth it. Again, I know Pastor Hankey could speak a little bit more to that if you guys would like him to. But you know, what I'm trying to do is make sure that is a economically feasible project for the city. So through grant funding.
Brandon.
Yeah, I mean, I view the numbers that were brought forward previously in September as just kind of ideas, right? And
Right.
I think we should continue to pursue this, you know, flesh it out of even notionally what it is, right? It's an athletic field, it's a sensory garden, it's a playground. I would suggest we don't go into any kind of detailed design on it. Just let's get what the concept is, continue to work that, and then, you know, then we can move forward. I mean, this seems like a great synergy for something, right? And we just don't know what it is yet. So I would recommend that we continue to proceed the conversation, but not go into any kind of detailed design, just to understand what we're talking about.
Would you all like to hear from Pastor Will on the church's perspective on all this? Will, would you like to come up and just give us some background on?
Yeah. Well, you know, we entered into this in a way where you can see that it's not just the park, but I am very interested, and the church is interested in transforming the community, which means we believe in Brentwood in general, and we believe in Mid-County, and we want to transform it in any way possible, which is why I would spend so much time on a service weekend. You know, why would I spend so much time rallying people last night together to talk about how do we get contractors and people to donate their time and efforts? Because I believe in this community. And I've spent a lot of time asking that question, how can we help this community? And it was through those conversations that this came up. You know, originally I thought, I knew that our church is, you know, as many dreams as we have, we're not going to be able to fund this alone. You know, we can't, we've had that land forever with 80 years of dreams to try and imagine how are we going to fund it. And so that was where the process begun. And then through different conversations, we came to this possibility. We had no desire to get rid of it, nor do our members want to get rid of it. It's about an opportunity to partner with the community. That's what it's about. It's about a church and a community coming together and believing and trusting, hey, say, this area has wanted a park, let's do it. And when we felt a struggle, even from our own church members, about what, you know, well, Tillis has the same thing and McGrath's down there, you know, it came in at the right time that a new member named Renee was a part of the Nature Conservancy, and she said, what about a natural park? And we can see, well, hey, what's the potential of McGrath having kids who come down to see the butterflies and the bees and the things like this, providing something for this community that's different. I realize for this to happen, it's going to be 3 separate entities that are going to wrestle with it and have to come to peace with it. And that's going to be a difficult challenge for the school district, the city, and the church. Every single one of them. It's going to take a lot of work to get there, but I think it's worth it in the end.
Questions for the pastor? And I think your point is well taken, Andy, and I think it's been expressed that we're going to have a tight budget going forward, but this is the type of public-private partnerships we're trying to foster. And I think at least the talk moving forward would be something worthwhile. I guess just a motion to continue.
Yeah, so I'll motion that we continue the discussion about, you know, what this looks like and continue to mature the partnership. to find a solution.
I'll second that. And again, we're not budgeting any money to be spent at this point. It is just simply conversations.
Conversation.
Great.
Yeah. All in favor? Oh, Andy?
Pastor, if I'm not mistaken, the verbal conversation that I have from when the Mount Calvary Church requested the St. Louis County Election Board not to use your area as a election station was because of the youth children's programs that you have and the amount of traffic coming in and out of the facility during those times?
No, it's because of the safety of our preschool.
Okay.
After we've seen some of the shootings that have happened, we have felt to even be, not in this area, but just in general, there's been a concern about safety through the day. We keep our doors locked merely for the preschool families so we can tell them that, hey, our place is safe. And when the elections would come in, we were created a problem because people needed to use the bathroom and they entered into our preschool area. There was really no way to keep them safe. So we have plenty of community events, from trunk or treat to Easter egg hunts to events that happen. Our petting zoo is a community petting zoo with our preschool. It's just that mere safety through the day. That's why we quit the election process there. And I do apologize, but it just didn't seem to fit with us anymore.
Thank you.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
I'm opposed because I think you're working on the hope that you can do something, and the rationale of money may end up crashing that dream. And I'm sorry, I think the money is a real big stumbler for it.
All right, thanks. Thanks, Will.
Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. All right, we'll move on to the sewer lateral program, and I guess that's you, Dan. What do we got new on this that we've been wrestling with all year long?
Yeah, I didn't know if you had any specific questions on any of the handouts, or if you just wanted to kind of jump into the memo to hit some of the highlights. We did actually get the legal opinion, which you can see that's one of the attachments. So City Attorney O'Keefe had included that because some of the questions that were posed at the last meeting, two in particular, would be, can you use public funds to provide private insurance, which the answer is no. We can't commingle those funds. And then the other part was, can we use general funds to supplement this program, which the answer is yes, but it's more or less a loan. So the way it's written is it should be self-sustaining, meaning that revenues and expenditures balance each other. And then I know that one graph that's got the blue and the red bars, that's a good indication of where we've been in the last, since 2013. So if you look, you'll see 2013 was about a balance, 192,000 rough number. 2014 revenues were better than expenditures, and so was 15. But then starting in 2016, it was heading in the opposite direction. So 2016, it was 217,000 for expenditures, rough number, and then 192,996 for the revenues. So our revenues were always around 193,000 in recent years, but then with the changes with Brentwood Forest, it's ratcheted down. The 2019 budget reflects that. It's right around $148,000 is all you're getting in assessments. So going back to the original question of, what do we need to do? We looked at a couple different options, which was in that recommendation. Looking at the comparators, they don't do cleaning and cabling, which I know we brought at the November board meeting. I think everyone was kind of in agreement that we should stop doing that. To date, for 2018, it would have saved roughly $35,000, $36,000. That's the rough number for that. The year prior was $42,000. There was way more cleaning and cabling. The prior year, I don't know why, 2017 was worse, but it was. So I don't think that we would see anything less than $35,000, $36,000 if we continue with it throughout all of 2019. And again, because our revenues are only $148,000, I looked at, well, how could you try to shore this up so that it would balance and maybe give you a little bit of a buffer so that you can try to pay it back. So the only way I saw that was if you cut it, meaning the $7,250 that people are allotted per calendar year, down to some other reasonable number that would balance. And that number so far is right around 3,500. It could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less. We don't know what 2019 will bring. On average, the repairs themselves have been close to $5,000. Just for morbid curiosity, I looked at, of the 42 repairs that Pipe Solutions did, how many of those were above the 3,500? You know, the majority of them were. It was, you know, quite a bit were higher than the 3,500. But there were only 2 out of the 42 that exceeded the 7,250, and the property owners paid the difference. So the 7,250 was actually a good number in the sense that most of the costs gravitate either towards that number or under that number. But in order to balance revenues and expenditures, then it goes back to, well, what should it be to try to get this equilibrium? And again, 3,500, you know, looked like a good number. When I go back through those 42 jobs that Pipe Solutions did, anything above 3,500, I calculated in Excel, added it up. It was over 70,000. It was actually over 73,000. So if the limit would have been $3,500 in 2018, I guess what I'm saying is it had the potential to save over $70,000 just with the 2018 data. You know, what 2019 brings, I don't know, but I just wanted to get in my mind, it's like, well, could it have balanced if that cap would have been in at a lower cap instead of 7,250? And the answer was yes, but, you know, hindsight's 2020. So that's where we are now. I don't know if you have any, like I said, specific questions. I know there's a lot of information in there.
Brandon.
So if we implement these 2 recommendations, what happens? You have a sewer lateral repair coordinator right now on staff. Would that become less of a full-time job?
That person's always busy doing something, you know, working on streets, sidewalks. You know, right now we've got probably at least 4 more people picking up Christmas trees and doing, you know, things that we normally do for maintenance.
The way we've reclassed that position is that person will be assisting with, and I think that happened since last year, with all the other street-related functions within the department.
It wouldn't be a reduction in headcount.
Yes, and we already eliminated 1 position in that section already.
And then if we're not paying for cabling, cleaning costs, but there is a defect that is found during that process, would that be covered under the $3,500 cap reimbursement back to the resident for that cabling and cleaning costs, right? Because that's how we find if there's a defect in the line.
Right, I didn't have that figured in there because most cities don't. I just had, like, if you cabled it or cleaned it, you pulled out roots, wipes, whatever the problem was, most of the time we figured, I think it was like 85, 90% of the time, it cleared it, it opened it, and it would drain again. So we thought, well, that's part of home ownership and home maintenance. It'd be no different than cleaning your gutters or, you know, changing out your air filter in your HVAC. You know, you could choose not to do it, but then it's going to make the machine work that much harder or cause future maintenance headaches. So we were looking at it from, let's just cut it out entirely, and then we don't have to go back and look at any of these. And if there is a defect, like the P-trap is broken or something, they'll give us the video, then we'll re-video it to confirm, and then we'll schedule the repair like normal.
Would the homeowner be reimbursed for the cost of the initial cabling that they did? Because we wouldn't have paid for that at that point, right?
The way it's written right now is no, but if you want that somehow written in there, we can try to make that accommodation and bring it back to you, or bring it to the full board, whatever your desire is.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We had our Ward 1 meeting last night, and this is one of the items that we discussed. I gave them a heads up that we were going to be talking about today. In fact, we've got the Andersons in attendance because they had some questions about. So just a quick recap. So in 2018, we had expenditures in the lateral sewer of $270,000, but we only had revenue of $168,000.
Right, when I ran fundware on December 31st, those are the numbers that I filled that column with.
Yeah, so we're at least $102,000 in the red in that fund. And your proposal would be we could save approximately $100,000 by eliminating the cabling, which would save us about $35,000 approximately, and by reducing the cap from $7,250 to $3,500, that would save approximately $70,000. So your proposal would be that's how we'd make up the difference.
Right. That's why I played around with the numbers.
I'm just want to make sure anybody who watches it that way they understand what we're dealing with here. Now, what I would like to get from you is some information. You have in your memo some alternatives. The Service Line Warranties of America and the American Water Resources. You found those. If you could just explain to the public what what that means, what's involved there.
Right, those would be private insurance programs that the resident, not the city, would have to fund. Town and Country, they actually have a partnership with that Service Lines of America, and what they do is they promote that to their citizenry because the city doesn't actually have a program. So it's voluntary. If you live in an older home and you think you're going to develop these problems, that particular program was $87 a year for the Town and Country residents, and it covered up to $8,500. But it also covered blockages. So if you did have tree roots or wipes, it would be part of that $8,500, and it was actually $8,500 per claim, not per calendar year.
Okay.
So as long as any one repair did not exceed that, you stayed within your insurance boundaries. And this would be something that if the city did limit it to $3,500, you could still go out and get your own policy, kind of like a rider, where if you think you're going to develop these problems, you would pay the extra, whatever it is, say it's $100 a year, and have another policy that covers you besides the city's plan.
Well, that's what I was telling the people last night in attendance, was that I know through my own homeowners I can get.
Yeah.
There's a separate rider for, I think, $45.
Right.
But this is separate from your homeowner's policy. This is
Correct.
one that, but you've got in here that Town and Country partnered with SWLA. Mm-hmm. Does that SLWA, does that require a certain number of homeowners to do this, or could it just be one Brentwood resident could contact either of these two companies?
That I don't know. We could reach out to Town and Country and dig down and get more details from them, because I don't know either, because I thought, well, how did they arrive at the $87 a year for the $8,500 in coverage?
Yeah, I think that would be helpful to know that, because if we do need to, it sounds like we obviously need to make some changes to this, and probably going to involve reducing the cap. And if we do that, it would be nice to be able to tell the residents that there are some other programs out there.
Right.
And it might just be one Brentwood resident. If they could call up and say, I want to pay $90 to AWR, then they can do that.
Right. Yeah, because they also have other programs that aren't even sewer lateral related, like electrical. Like
Right.
if you were worried about electrical issues in an older home.
Right, that's
you
what
can
a lot
buy
of
policy
homeowners'
as well.
policies have that as well.
Yeah, I went to Town and Country's website, and they have a link to this SLWA, and they will give you a quote based on your zip code and address for that particular property. So I don't know if maybe somehow they give a discount for people in Town and Country based on volume or what. But Andy?
I would like to ask the city administrator, according to your sheet, Dan, we had negative revenues for 2016, 2017, and 2018. BOLA, didn't we do budget amendments to help fund those negative numbers?
I know we did budget amendments, but I couldn't speak specifically to the answer to your question without looking at that.
The
be able
follow-up
to answer
question
your
is
question.
because of the city attorney's
Opinion.
do we need to get those monies recouped also and get it back into the general revenue with what he calls some reasonable interest?
I would like to take a look at that and come back with a
Because
response.
I'm in agreement with Mr. Dimmitt. If we can change some numbers and get it back to a balance, great. But we're indebted and have not come up with a way to put that in a favorable. I too also checked with my homeowner's insurance agent and asked him to do some research. And yes, there are a few companies out there that will write policies just for lateral, or companies that will put them as a rider on your existing, and they go anywhere from $7 to $11 a month to work with. So I think if the city administrator and the attorney will agree, based on the date of his letter that he's given us, we stop what he's suggesting on what we're doing. We're collecting for the 2019 year, so we have to do something to work with because you've paid a bill. But we have to also educate the public. This thing is not going to be sustainable.
Karen, did you have some comment or something to add?
Keith, we talked about this in staff meeting, and you're right. He did say we do have to pay it back.
So
What's been loaned up through now.
plus interest.
Yes.
And we get to determine what a reasonable
Yes.
return on the investment is, but we're in the hole. We have to figure out some way of going. If we terminated the program at the end of a calendar year and didn't collect money on the following year, with the idea, because I don't want to perpetuate a loss going through, how would we go about working out the negative deficits and getting those resolved? Can the city write off the debt? Is that permissible? Or because of the mixture of green and yellow money that we are in trouble?
We'll have to research all of that.
Yeah,
I would love some direction, please.
let's do that, Paul. I know someone in the audience was like, please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and give us your thoughts.
Yeah, it's Tom Anderson, and I'm at 2323 Park Ridge, and this program is a really nice program. We haven't taken advantage of it, fortunately haven't had to, but, you know, this is a devastating expense to homeowners that, you know, all of a sudden things don't work and, you know, you've got to get it fixed quickly and so forth. So I would just, you know, encourage the city to be as creative as possible. Maybe homeowners would be willing to pay more on the program. You know, rather than the private insurance company, you know, we say, all right, everyone agrees that it makes sense to add another $20 a year. And the cleaning and cabling stuff, I never saw that as part of the program. It was like if the line has collapsed and failed and you have that catastrophic expense, then that's what I saw it for, not maintaining my sewer or anything as much as a catastrophic type thing. So I guess I don't have any real solution other than to say, it seems like a pretty good program for people. It really lowers risk for homeowners, and if there's any way to maintain it and keep it going, it'd be a wonderful thing.
Well, Tom, the problem we're running into is the state only allows us to collect $50 a year. That's the highest we can go.
I see.
And the expenses, they haven't raised that in years, and the expenses are exceeding the revenues
I see.
to do this type of work
You're locked into
now.
the 50, huh?
Yeah, and we
Yeah.
can't commingle private and public monies. And these got to be separated.
Okay.
So this is what we've been dealing with for the past year or two. And I've pulled up budgets, sewer lines on different cities, and they're all running negative too. Everybody's got the same problem until the state legislators allow us to collect more.
Yeah, 50 isn't that much, that's for sure. But
No.
if you took out the cleaning and maintenance and all that stuff and made it so at least if it was $6,000, someone got at least half of that, or, you know, $3,500, that would soften the blow. I mean, people get a bill for $7,000. A lot of folks are, I mean, they're just,
Right.
they're hosed.
It's
you know.
devastating. I know.
All right.
All right, thanks for your input, Tom. Andy?
I believe that the committee needs to make a motion to the full board because we would like to adjust ceiling maximums, bringing it down from the 7,250 down to the 3,500.
Well, I think Dan's asking for two motions. One is on the cabling.
Yes, but, yeah, I want to
Good.
bring the ceiling down to the 3,500. That's the first motion. Second motion is to remove the cost of cabling and video cameraing in the lines, and to make the 3,500 a cap for the year by address, and to send that to the full board to change the current policy for the year
Separate
2019.
those out. Was-
No, it could be a joint motion.
Okay.
Second?
Any other discussion?
Fortunate.
Yeah. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Well, we'll keep trying to keep it together on that. All right, next on the agenda, I lost my computer.
Playground.
Eric, I think you're up regarding the playground down at Brentwood Park.
Yes, so we had to put out the bid again for the Brentwood Park Playground. We put it out, we received 5 responses. As we look through it, the Cunningham Recreation was unanimous selection of the committee based on overall design. The pirate ship and the whale were just wonderful pieces that we thought were better than anything else we saw from any of the other companies. Those both were GRC pieces, glass fiber reinforced concrete, which means they'll be a lot more durable and will last longer than regular pieces. The design also included some open space that include allow kids for free play. So again, it's just not running up and down ramps, so they can run around and have a lot of free play there too. Shade structure there, and then something I didn't put on there, but Cunningham also has a direct bolt system, which means if you go around to a lot of different other playground companies, you'll see a lot of clamps. So anytime there's a connection from one ramp to another, you have to have a clamp. So there's times where you'll see 5 or 6 different clamps on a pole, whereas Cunningham will just, or Game Time will just directly bolt so that you don't have that clamp all the way around. And then also Cunningham also is the only company included a fence along the side of the creek, and also included some grading and retaining walls, which ensures the safety for children. So our recommendation is to move forward with Cunningham.
Questions for Eric? Andy?
I'm looking at your spreadsheet and I see everything but costing. How did the cost come out between the 5 facilities? Or is that something that's not measurable because they all didn't bid on the same concept?
They did. We did ask for cost, but since it is an RFP, cost is just one of the components. I will say that the cost is a little bit all over the place, which is why we didn't put it in there. Mainly because we had one company, which was Play by Design. Their cost was $245,000, but they didn't include concrete. A concrete base. They only included a crushed granite base, and we asked for a concrete base. So again, that would have had to be a change order, so we weren't comparing apples to apples. They also didn't include any benches or shade, and the proposal even said that our budget allows for you to go through our catalog and pick out shade and benches and those type of things. So they basically said, here's our base, and then have at it to finish out the design. So they didn't basically give us a full design. And another one, some National Playground was $328,000, so that was right around. Superior was $301,000, but again, they also talked about looking at additional features like shade. Like if you want more shade, you can go through our catalog. The last one was Plain Park Structure, which was $280,000 again, but they didn't include they include only a crushed rock sub base. So again, it wasn't apples to apples. So,
Ola, does this put us outside our purchasing bidding arrangements? I'm under the impression we're supposed to stay with low bidder to work with unless we have
Not always.
somewhat of a discretion.
This was a request for proposal. This wasn't a bid.
Yeah, that's accurate. Not always low bidder. I mean, there's provisions in the code, obviously, that allows the board, if it's a local business, up to 3% higher. But this was a request for qualification, and you're looking at the capacity and the ability to deliver the project, not necessarily the cost.
You have a $280,000 bid plus a few other things that, if you choose to embellish it up a little bit because the bid didn't include everything you wanted, you've got a $328,000, $329,000 bid, and you're asking for a 10% contingency plan for another $16,000 on top of that. So you're basically looking at 2 bids that are $60,000 apart from each other. But you want your contingency on the group that you've selected, but you're not giving the same type of contingency to the other group. So I'm trying to balance, how do I make the dollars work?
Well, to be honest, I would have asked for a contingency on any group I would have selected. I asked for contingency on any project because you never know what's going to happen on a project.
Not a bad policy.
Yeah, and honestly, the RFP, as I said, the RFP said that the budget was $329,000. That was part of the reason why we put the dollar amount in there, because we weren't basing the project on dollars. We're basing it on quality of the company, design, specifically the design. So everyone knew what our budget was. We were basing the decision on the design, the qualifications of the company, what that we could get for the dollars. The grant is a 50-50 grant, so we'll get half of what the reimbursement of the grant. So that's why it was an RFP, not a bid.
No other questions, Mr. Chairman.
Else? All right.
Motion to take it to the board, if that's what's needed.
Second.
Motion to take it to the board, Eric's recommendation. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone oppose? All right, it's on to the full board. Item is fence replacement on Cecilia. Dan, I think this is you.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure if you had any questions or needed clarification, but basically it boils down to there was a petition to do a subdivision at 2438 Cecilia. There was an existing home there. If you could go to Google Earth, you can go back in time and see that there was a ranch home there. There used to be well, there still is a walkway between Douglas Court and the home that's on the north side of that property there at Cecilia. It was actually a paper street. I did some research. Planning and Zoning actually has the file for it, so I went through it. It was originally called like Warren Avenue, paper street. 20 feet of it was pushed over to the Douglas Court folks. The other 20 feet was reserved, but some of it was carved out for the homeowner that was, or the property owner that was on that side. Then what happened in May of 2003 was that Kingbridge Homes came, said they want to put in 3 homes, tear down the ranch, but instead of facing this paper street, which would be Warren, the 3 homes would face the east side of Cecilia, which is what they do now. So that was all actually agreed to. Lisa found the ordinance. It was Ordinance 3893, and that granted permission in June of 2003 to go ahead and do this subdivision of lots 73, 74, 75 of Colonial Village and a 20-foot strip of land. So that 20-foot strip of land was used to both serve as a setback for the home at the northernmost end and still provide a walkway. If you look at the notes, it was kicked around. They wanted an 8-foot walkway. They couldn't get 8 feet, so as it stands, it's 5 feet. The question becomes is that there's a fence that's on the south side of the walkway that's deteriorated. You know, I asked our folks, Public Works put it in at the direction of whoever gave them direction from the city in 2004 is when they think. You know, because the property owner's been living there since 2004, and he knows the fence came in. He moved in like July of 04. It was shortly after that, but somewhere before 05.
Fence came up.
But the fence is deteriorated. He got 3 quotes for a fence replacement, which I put in the memo, and he would like to see the city pay STL Fence Works or pay him back to hire STL Fence Works to put up a replacement fence. They'll tear the old one out, put the new one in. But again, after doing the research, looking at the file, there's no agreement that I can find for that fence. The fence to the north of the path actually was put in by Abbey Fence, and that's actually on the property owner's property because I found a right-of-way marker when I walked it. The one on the south side, I can't tell. It looks like it's right on the sidewalk, so I don't know if the sidewalk is the edge of the right-of-way or...
Yes, it is.
Okay. And that's all part of the path work RFP, which we'll do later, which is a totally different topic. But based on our research, you know, we can't find an actual agreement. I asked the property owner, do you have an agreement on the fence? And he said no. That I guess they asked the city. The city said, yeah, we'll put it in. Kingbridge actually moved the path over because the path was partly off of the city's right-of-way. So to clear it up, Kingbridge did it at their cost. And then the path is actually concrete alongside of that home, the 150-foot length of that lot, and then it transitions to asphalt.
And can I just interrupt you because I think Andy's chomping at the bit to give us historical.
Yep, that's all I know. You probably know a lot more than I.
The path got corrected because when Kingbridge built the 3 homes, they tore up the pathway because they had squeezed the 3 properties in. The properties to the north side under Mayor Kurtz were allowed to move their property lines back to the walkway, and that's where we lost witness. Because of that, when Kingbridge tore things up, he didn't have enough room to put in what was supposed to be back the way it was. Mr. Kingbridge and the Mayor Kelly made the agreement to, if we would allow him to use the whole area to build, that he would put the pathway back after he finished construction. The homeowner asked for some privacy to get the fence in there. The city has incurred maintaining this fence to work with. The dilemma that we have is we have no ordinance that requires the city to put a fence in to make it a privacy. If you walk that area of the area, you now have fences right on the line of both sides of the walkway at 5 feet and at 8 feet, and you're going through a little bit of a tunnel. My suggestion is that we tell the homeowner that the city would be more than happy to remove the fence because it is in need of repair, and at the homeowner's choosing, let them put up a fence on their property to accomplish the task. We have had other people that have come and asked the city to do work on their properties because of other agreements, and this board has taken the position that we stop doing that because you're not supposed to be doing work on private properties, and let the homeowners take over the responsibility of maintaining what they want on their properties. The Board of Aldermen never approved any of this action with Kingbridge. It never came to us for a vote. I went back through the 2004, 2005, 2008, and 2010 actions that we did involving this area and the widening of Litzinger coming into Cecilia and moving telephone poles, but we did nothing with this homeowner or Kingbridge in writing, and that was a flaw of how we proceeded business back then.
But you believe the city put up the original fence?
The city did put up that fence originally, and we have paid a couple times to replace the few posts that have deteriorated.
Up to, it seems like it's a similar dollar amount to repair posts. I've been here, 7+, and I know we did it maybe right after I started or something like that.
Yeah, this would be the second time we're going after fixing this fence.
So assuming that was kind of a motion, I will second it with one more thing, and that I would say we offer the homeowner that we'll take it down or give it to them, right? I mean, if they want to keep it up and then take over maintenance, but basically get out of this fence.
Yes. Now, this board, this committee agreed with the Public Works to authorize getting surveys done on trails that the city does have ownership. I believe you'll find that this fence is dead on the lines. So yeah, if they wish to keep it that way, I don't think that that would cause us a whole lot of heartburn.
I looked up the fence requirements, and they would not be able to put this fence back up the way it is. As far as, if you look at the picture, it continues into the front, off the front of their building, off the front of the property line.
Yes.
So they would have to stop at the building front, the home front.
Our code does allow, and Dan, I think it's going to have to go to the housing department. There is a decorative arrangement in the code that allows you to bring a fence in front of the house, and there are some exceptions that allows that and size limitation, but the housing department would have to tell us if this would qualify. It was agreed to allow them to come all the way out to the street level because that's when the path picks up right off the street, and they wanted that privacy, or at least designation. I don't want you cutting through my front yard to get to the path. And that's how we allowed it at that point. Shelley, I'm locked out again.
Well, did we have a second to?
Yeah, that was a second.
Yeah.
And was it clear of, so either we'll tear down the fence or they can take ownership of it, right? And then we're out of it. Is that?
I think that's marvelous.
And then if they do tear it down and replace it, then will they need to come to Board of Adjustment to bring it out the front? Yeah. I'll tell you, I walk that all the time, and it is a bit of a safety concern because you're walking right out on the street and you can't, especially with my little kids, they can't see. So.
Yeah, there's another exception here that the fence can't, if there's, it's got to be 10 feet, let's see. Yeah, 10 feet away from any intersection.
Yeah.
And it comes right up to that intersection.
It needs to be pulled to the east.
So we would need to notify the homeowner too. If they knock it down, I mean, they can keep it up the way it is probably, right? Because it's grandfathered in, but what, if they knock it down and build a new one, it'd have
Needs
to
to
come
meet
through.
code.
Yeah.
They'd have to get a permit to do what they needed, and if they, permit would require at least a sketch drawing of what they would propose to put back.
It says a survey here, so they're
So
gonna.
that's a roundabout way of saying second.
Yeah, when it says survey, you can do a point survey or the thing where you don't have to
right.
do a full survey,
Boundary survey.
yeah, to go with.
All right, well,
All in favor?
all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? All right. Any other citizen comment? Dan, does your son have anything to say? I guess that's, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Anyone opposed?
Nope. 2, 5, 6.
All right.